Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Phil Goes Deep. This is the GRC IRM Full Flow Series, Part 8. And I do not quite know what I'm going to cover. Last time I got a bit involved in the GRC Utils. So somewhere between GRC Assessment Utils and GRC Item Generator. I think we're going to continue to convert the GRC application in ServiceNow into Flow Designer. I set the challenge of trying to do this within 24 hours. Each part is around 80 minutes long, which means that there will be 18 shows, and this is number 8, so there's still 10 remaining if I continue. I'm not sure if I will do this all the way through. I think I did this as a bit of a discovery, and I've learned a lot along the way. Whether it's worth continuing or not, I think I'll decide in a few more hours time, but until then I'll just keep coming back each week. Apologies, I did not schedule today. I just turned up and thought I better start doing something. So links in the description. My hair's still pink. It's not October anymore. Breast cancer awareness is over, but I have raised nearly £1,200. I've got 68 supporters there. The link is still in the description, and as of tomorrow in the UK, I don't believe hairdressers are going to be open, so my hair is probably going to stay pink for a little bit longer, but I'll continue to grow out the mullet, and we'll see what it looks like in December. Not a priority right now, but do check out the link in the description if you are interested. Spread the word and make sure you get yourselves checked. Okay, it's very serious. It is going to be into Movember now, and I won't be trying to generate any sponsorship directly, but I probably will share a link with you soon. I don't have the luxury of being able to grow a moustache properly, so let's see what we can share on that. But definitely men's health, women's health, all very important right now. Back into the detail, we have so far converted indicators, issues, issue grouping, and GRC utils. There's still a bit more to go, so I'm going to, I think, start with assessment utils. So let me share my screen. And I will just talk you through this diagram briefly. So how we convert over into Flow Designer, we look for those calls and then we review them, create actions, and then create subflows and flows, and then go back and replace those calls. I did think about something after the show last week, that in a couple of cases I have converted script actions and made the script action call the subflow, but that script action is getting called from a UI action, so actually we could bypass the script action and go straight to the subflow. Technically speaking, that's probably what we should be doing, but that occurred to me after the event. So I hope the audio levels are okay. They seem a bit better in my ears. I don't have that annoying buzzing. So get involved on the chat. I've also got a link in the description to the ServiceNow community, and I've got version 11 of the GRC apps running on a Paris instance. So I'll fire up Flow Designer, and we've got a blank sheet of paper here for GRC Assessment Utils. Let's see what we can see. If we go to the script includes, and apologies as well if there's any background noise. It is going to be fireworks night tomorrow in the UK, so some people are celebrating that early. let's take a quick look at this API, GRC Assessment Utilities. And I'll tell you, I think a good way to see the different places this is getting called is to do a good old code search. I'm using MS Code Search, available from the Share site. So we've got nine business rules, one UI page, one UI action, and a widget. Okay, one widget there. Let's just take a quick look. GRC assessment list, get assessments. Okay, so that's not a flow. Won't look to convert that, but UI action, ungroup assessments. This will be a good one. Remove from group. So the UI page group assessment gets called from a UI action. So you do the UI action against, this is consolidated attestations or grouped assessments. You can group a number of assessment instances together, and you do that from a UI action from the list choice, and that is client callable and fires up this UI page, and then that UI page is obviously processing that. So I guess you could pass from the processing script, you could call the subflow from a UI page processing script. So I've not done that before. That might be an interesting one. So we have a UI action, which is group. I'm just going to put here group assessment. That calls a UI page. The UI page is then calling var results. So that's grouping, and then there's ungrouping. So I was just thinking about those script actions. Sometimes the script action is used to maintain the asynchronous state from a UI action, so that you've clicked the UI action and then you click the UI action, and you don't want to sit there waiting for that response, so it just chucks. You just get the UI action just to chuck an event, and the script action then picks it up and processes it asynchronously. But obviously with Flow Designer we can trigger flows asynchronously. So in some of these cases I was looking at for GRC Utils, you can just get rid of the script action, get the UI action to just call the subflow asynchronously. And that's effectively what it looks like we're going to do here. The UI action is going to call remove from group current. So these are two actions and flows to create. Let's just see where else they're getting called. We've got, just check. Okay, GRC Assessment Client Utils. That I assume is an Ajax script, just because it says client in a client callable extends Ajax, so I won't be touching that one. Assessment Utils, the one we're looking at. Base is the one we're actually converting, and then we've got 9 business rules. So assess risk and clear response info. Have to be careful, some of these are definitely in the right scope actually. So yeah, these are business rules coming from policy and compliance, risk management. one's good. Cancel assessments if draft retired and it's after. Cancel assessments if exempted. Sounds policy and compliance-ish. Yeah. Delete assessment results. This business rule, that's before anyway, this business rule doesn't make sense to me, delete assessment results, because it gets default item assessments, which is the only one based on the name. It doesn't make sense, because you have a property called GRC Attestation, which sets the default, or at least is your default attestation on, you know, out of the box. It's the only one you've got. But then it only deletes results if you match the default assessment. This bit, I need to come back to this at some point. I'll probably post on the community about it and raise an idea, because this is it has never quite made sense to me, that one. But anyway, it's a before business rule. We can't convert that. Mark controllers compliant if effective. That's policy and compliance. Remove from group if cancelled. That one sounds profile. Yeah, that's profiles, but that's before, so we can't do that one. Update children when parent is complete. That's profiles, and that's asynchronous. How nice. Update item when assessment complete. After. Excellent. So we've got 3 business rules that we can actually convert here. So let's just start at the back. This one. It's going to call evaluate assessment results. This one is calling copy response. It's a group, right? So when to run. If it's attestation risk assessment, state changes to complete, grouped assessment is empty, but response type is not empty. Just want to flag the fact that that one's async. Update children, can cancel assessments if draft or retire. So when you move the control or the risk back to draft or retire, cancels the attestation or the assessment. Nice. Let's get the call in here. Well, this is a bit more interesting. So I'm just thinking, what are we doing here? So we're displaying messages. Does Flow Designer? Haven't I got a demo one in here? Yeah, demo one. Does Flow Designer able to post messages? ServiceNow core. Because I know some of it will run in the foreground. What is document templates? Generate PDF. Whoa, I've just stumbled into a whole new world. Generate PDF document. This is not what I was That's blown my mind. I'm actually looking at stuff around this at the moment, and I did not know that was in Flow Designer. So that's caught me off guard. Okay, let's do a little test here. We'll do a little side. We'll do a little sideshow because I want to know. We haven't got anyone live anyway, so if you're watching this back, hopefully this is useful. I want to know, can I post message? Let's say that post message. I need a new category anyway. Let's do. I'll still keep it in GRC Utilities. Okay, so I'll get an action because in my action I want a script. Okay, and my input, I'm going to call it a message, and that's a string, and it's mandatory. And in here I want a variable called string message, and my value will be message from my input. And I'm going to do a gs.getMessage inputs.stringMessage. So I'll get a message here, and then gs.addInfoMessage string message. Now what I'm wondering, obviously with getMessage we can pass in inputs. I'm still not great at understanding how to handle objects that aren't kind of predefined in some kind of schema, where it could grow if you want to be like handling things like glide records. If you look at how generate issue works, that way of passing in a dynamic set of fields, if you try to do that same kind of thing in Flow Designer, the data type seems to be tripping up on there. I might just have this wrong, so let me publish this. I've got an action then. If I then have, do I need a flow? Can I test this action? Hello, run test. So I guess there's no choice there. It says run test in background. Let's just refresh. It's not sitting in the cache somewhere. No, so so business rules. Business rules that are passing messages back. Can't seem to cope with Flow Designer. Where am I looking here? So gs.add info message. Not possible. Is it possible? Just not doing it right. Hello came in. Yeah, look, it came in here, string message. So you can see. Let me just check one other thing as well. Do you want to check? see. Sorry, I can't see my keyboard. Okay, let's just put an exclamation mark on this. Save that and test that. Well, I didn't get a message on the screen. Action's been executed. Viewing script, raw text. That's great that we see the text, but I want to see the runtime value. So, if you've got a business rule, what I'm thinking is that you will want these messages so you could make this bit go off the flow designer, but then what's the point? That's all I'm wondering. I know I can make this happen from flow designer, but what's the point? Let's see. Let's do it. I'm not convinced of the value here, and this is why I'm not sure if I'm going to continue with this series much longer. If I do 8 episodes and I've got to get my calculator out. Let's have a look. What is can't do that maths in my head because I wanted to go 8 times 80 is 640 and divide that by 60. 10.6. Yeah, so 3 episodes is 4 hours. So episode number 9 would take me to 12 hours halfway through. And I could just blindly keep going and, like here, convert everything out of kind of stubbornness, if you like. But I am questioning some of the value here. I know I haven't done anything other than profiles. This is cancel assessments. It's called cancel existing assessments, actually. Cancel existing assessments. Let me just get that script step in here. Current is going to come in. Current is okay. See, current. If I go to assessment utils, okay, I'm just reading this comment. I've not read this. There is a comment in here. Supports below 2 group types. This function group creates a group of assessment instances so that user can take all the selected instances using a single UI page. Consolidate. This function creates a consolidated group of assessment instances so that user can take only one set of questions, and after submit, answers will be copied over to all assessment instances. Metric type is default group by. It can be further grouped by item, consent, or SNGRC profile. Now, Sebastian posted on the community recently asking a question about this, so I'll see if we can figure it out. Yeah, so that's item. So what we're passing in here as an input is item. In fact, here as an input is item, and this is a reference to SNGRC item, which is control or risk. That's mandatory. And item here is going to come in there. Let's call that GR item. And this will be inputs.gr item. Now, does this return var total? Yeah, so let's put outputs dot total equals new GRC. In here we create a variable called total and assume that's an integer. Let's put in here a default value of 0. And then our output is going to be total integer, edit exit mode, map that into there. Boom, boom, boom. Publish that as an action. And you can't, oh, hold on a minute. So I can just call actions directly. I think I got a bit confused with this, and I was triggering the subflow, but you don't even need the subflow in some cases then. Why? Okay, I'm just thinking about when. So if you look in here, conversion steps, you know, I was saying we'll always create the action. We always create a subflow. So if we know we're going to create a flow, we would create the subflow, because that means we've got the ability to trigger it from business rule, etc. But actually, you can trigger the action from here. I must have missed this. I must have missed it. So let me copy. I don't want the whole thing. I'll get the try catch. If I go into here, I'm going to say var total equals cancel existing assessment current, boom, then has to be inside here, function cancel existing assessments item. Yeah, oh, that's nice the way it produces that comment. Whoever built this code snippet part of flow design is very good. Now, var total equals outputs total. I just want to then return total there. If I return total there, that's my function. My function returns total. My total up here. And we're executing synchronously. We can get rid of those lines. We don't need notes. Because this might have errored, I don't want my error down here. It's going to throw the error, but I want to make sure that I still get a value that can be processed as expected. So therefore, where's total used? Yeah, if that came back as null, it potentially would cause a problem. So because I want it to be an integer, I'm going to default it. That's made my business rule a bit bigger there. Let's try this out. How are we doing on time? Half an hour in. So have I got some controls? Yeah, so this one's in a test. Return that to draft. I cancel one existing attestation, and therefore in my flow designer, if I look at executions just now, control 2004 should be the one that we can see coming in as our runtime value. Oh, it even tells you the calling source triggered from script. Look, runtime value 204. That's lovely. You know what? That is lovely. The only thing for me is that it's a lot of overhead from a scripting perspective to plug that action in. And clearly I've got outputs. I want it to run synchronously because I want to communicate what happens to the user. And there's no glide system messages available from within Flow Designer. So if I want to post these messages, I have to use a business rule. But I've got that debugging powerhouse of Flow Designer here. It even tells me where it came from. Calling source, UI action, return to draft. Not strictly true, is it? Because return to draft is what triggered this business rule. So that's not strictly true. Let me open a context record to see what we can see. Opening operations view. Okay, just learning my way around. Open action logs. Nope. Nothing in here. Oh, good evening if you just tuned in. Just having a little click around in Flow Designer. I've converted an action. I've converted a business rule which cancels assessments from a control. When the control or risk moves back to draft or moves to retired, it will go and cancel the assessment. However, this business rule communicates a message to the user, and we can't trigger that message from within Flow Designer itself. So what I've got is the business rule making a call directly to the action, not to the subflow, directly to the action. So that worked, and when I look at this, I can see that the UI action is labeled as the source, but it wasn't the thing that triggered the action directly. The UI action triggered the business rule called the action. So all I'm thinking here is if you've got layer upon layer, you lose a little bit of visibility. And I noticed this last time in episode 7, where I expected that I had a flow, a subflow and an action. So when the flow was triggered, I expected that all of the context of the flow would be in the flow and the subflow would be in the subflow, but actually that subflow never showed us having an execution against it. So it's almost, in my head, I'm thinking that it kind of compiles the action, subflow and everything up to the flow into one runtime, and then the flow executions are kind of stored at the flow level, which for me took a little bit away from it. I thought that if I go to this action and look at executions, I would see all the executions and what flows they'd come from and when. But at the moment it seems like it's all kind of baked into the flow when it runs. So that's what I'm learning. But effectively that business rule, which is, so I'm converting, I know a couple of people just tuned in, I'm converting the GRC Assessment Utilities API, and I've done this one, cancel assessments. Let me just get a copy of my action. I'm in two different windows for Flow Designer, which can't be good. Cancel existing assessments in there. So I'm just going to flag that as add info message. The next one, update children. Oh, I closed it. Let me see. Update children when parent is complete. Update children when parent is complete. This one. Update children. So is this the one that runs async? Yeah, nice. The only thing that's not nice about this when I look at converting it is the number of conditions, but it's not a problem. We'll go and create our action now. What's the call? Copy response. Copy response. This is going to be in the assessment utils. And I'm looking in here for copy response. Oh, it's called copy response, and then it calls in copy response to children. Assessment, I assume, is the glide record. Yes, of the assessment. Okay. Not a problem. Copy response. And that's got a return in there. No, there's no return. That returns blank or null. So copy response, our input is going to be assessment, and this is a reference to the assessment instance table, mandatory, and we need a script step. Copy this out of here, boom, and my input is going to be, I've got an extra S in there, haven't I? Right, this is just a request for anyone that's writing code. If you notice a typo, and check for them please, if you notice a typo, go and correct it. Don't just copy and paste that throughout your code. You know, because when people are trying to work with your code or read it, or in fact trying to extend it, they then have to replicate your typos. When you're doing peer reviews, look for typos. It's just a request, I mean. It's optional. So there's no return in this. Copy response, no return. Publish this as an action. I did say in the previous one I'll convert the subflows directly, but I'm questioning the value and the sanity of that decision, so I don't need this one open. I'm just going to go straight into a flow now, and this is update children when parent is complete. If you've just tuned in, give me a shout on the chat and just let me know. Make sure the audio levels are okay. We need these conditions for this business rule asynchronously on update. So updated assessment instance. Lots of filters in here. I'm just going to say for every update, because I don't want to miss anything. I need to check the docs on this. I need to be very confident. This is going to run in the background. That's nice. Extra options in here when to run on current and extended as well, so you don't automatically inherit the functionality, but you can if you want. Very nice stuff. So metric type evaluation method, that's easy. Metric type, why can't I type here? Typed on the other bit. Evaluation method is one of attestation or risk assessment and I'm going to check these in the other window. So risk assessment and state is complete and grouped assessment is empty and control risk is empty and response type is not none. Any other conditions? Now I did notice, interestingly, that the order on the business rule is 1,000, which means that it might be trying to compete with workflows. It might just be because it's asynchronous and we want to make sure that it does run well after everything else. Just don't want to get caught out by that. So I've got my trigger and my action is profiles, assessment utils, copy response. I just pass that assessment record in and activate the flow. So therefore I need a grouped assessment. In fact, I need to turn the business rule off. It's not that one. Where's the business rule gone? What was it called? Update children. I just realised where my business rule's gone. I moved it to a different window so I can copy the conditions over. There we go. This is it. I had a bit of a late night last night watching the news. So I think that's taken its toll. What I want then is my controls. If I take these two, they don't have an attestation but they are in draft, so that's good. let me test these. Unless they're attached to control objectives, I shouldn't have just done that. I just found a little back door there, list editing and attestations for control objectives. Yeah, let's do it properly. There we go, list edit on attestation field on control should be restricted, I think. And you can do that either using ACLs or list control. Just configure list control here, and therefore see list edit type, disable list editing, but that does it on the whole row, on the whole table. If you do it with ACLs, you can lock down just that field and say that field cannot be list edited, so that's quite nice if you want to do it that way. Move these 3 to a test, then I go to my attestations. Got 3 of them, let me just group them. Same response, doesn't really matter. Same response is easier to take. I'm going to say no, fail, because when I submit this, then my flow designer executions just now is queued, in progress, complete, runtime 5 seconds. But you know, I can see the script that ran in here, but I can't see the runtime of the script. It would be really nice to be able to see, okay, what was that value at the time? There's no way to see that, I don't think. But look, you do get times in here, so you can see when something took a certain amount of time. But it worked, and the business rule was deactivated. So that's another one off the list. Copy response, and this is a replace to a flow. Just map these across. My color coding's gone as well. Mark them as green. For some reason my text has got a background color. Okay, how are we doing? Update item when assessment complete. Yeah, I am at, it looks like the stream might have paused. So apologies if you're getting any interruption there. Just see the lighting looks a little bit out on my background. Hopefully that's a bit better. My stream back? Yeah. 49 minutes. Which means we've got half an hour remaining. Update children when parents complete is done. I'm just wondering, and then if anyone's involved or wants to get involved on this, really, is it worth continuing here? Is there anything that I'm going to write up my responses. I've got this article on the community. I've posted some findings, but I need to take a little bit of time and kind of digest what I've attempted here, because I think I've proven enough to know whether it's worth doing. There were a couple of areas of GRC that I'd never quite got to do, which maybe I'll do now, because this might be the last one. Might be part 8, might be the final, the grand finale. So when, from a control objective, when I map entity types to control objectives, lots and lots of magic happens. And this all comes from the M2M tables. And this is not the only M2M table. So the control objective to entity type table is not a real M2M table, and it's extended. So the actual table is called SNGRC M2M content profile type. So content is extended to control objective and to risk statement and citation, but citations aren't mapped to entity type. So this has a business rule that runs on the base table, several business rules. If we just look at the profiles app, generate links is the main one. Okay, so if I look, let me just tidy up some of these tabs that I know you can't see them. Generate links, delete links. I think in you can see here when to run. So before these are out of scope anyway, so ignore those. These, create item generation record. Okay, so we've got generate links, delete links, and create item generation record. Good evening for the new users. Give me a shout on the chat and see what's happening. Subscribe to the channel as well. I know when I've watched other channels they say that. Subscribe to the channel, and I don't know where that button is, but if you do like this stuff, get involved. I will be posting more things around GRC, IRM. It's very, there's lots coming, there's lots going on, and I think with that in mind, this full flow series may have reached its natural end. So delete links, generate links. Generate links is the main puppy here. And so I think that we can replace generate links quite nicely with a flow designer and get greater visibility. So what I don't know about this, but item generator, you've got your M2M, so you've got your entity type to content, which calls generate links. Okay, you've also got from policy it will be entity type to document. Okay, so this entity type table here, if I configure all on here, we've got generate links again. It runs asynchronously, so this can get a little bit tricky when you're mapping things at high volume. A lot of the time things can get a little bit overlapped and a bit stuck, and you can't see what's going on. So my hope was that converting this stuff to Flow Designer would increase the visibility of those things. But it doesn't change the API that's being called. It's called generate links. So what I'm wondering, if we've got, so this is from the document table, document to entity type. which is extended into, if you think about this, these M2M tables, this is entity type to control objective. This is entity type to risk statement. So the table structure here, so these tables are extended, and this one to document is extended. So entity type mapped to policy, entity type mapped to risk framework. And it's the business rule on these two tables, which that logic extends into these ones. So when you map an entity type to a policy, it triggers this, which then maps the entity type to all of the control objectives that are attached to that policy, and then each one of these calls this generate links, and it cascades the mappings to another M2M table, and then that M2M table triggers another one. So when it's running asynchronously, it can get a little bit caught up in itself. And equally, it does a generate item generation record. You've seen it there, create item generation record, but this runs after. So if you've got asynchronous processing, this is why sometimes the SNGRC item generation table ends up with some leftover records. And it's been happening for a number of years and never quite got solved. It's intermittent. It's not really reproducible, but from my experience happens at high volume. And it's just the nature of asynchronous business rules, I think. But my hope is that maybe moving some of this into Flow Designer does increase the visibility and the traceability, so you can explain it when it happens. Where else does generate? Okay, we haven't done this all by hand, or by memory. Let's just go. Where else is generate links? I'm just gonna do that to make sure it's talking about the actual method where it's getting called from. So we've got 5 business rules there, all the same. Alrighty, this is the one. This is control objective to risk statement table, last associated. But look, each time it just calls generate links, but generate links here is saying if new, so it's expecting a return, which means that runs so the business rule runs asynchronously, but the call to the API doesn't. Where's generate links? Oh, I'm in the wrong. I need item generator engine, which I haven't downloaded yet. Let me go and get it. Script include. Item generator base. Let's go. Let me convert the type to JavaScript, and we're looking for generate links, and actually look, it does that get method. So generate links is the generic entry point. It does return get method. See, get method should be returning a method. It shouldn't be calling the method it returns. So if you look at the indicator framework, you've got indicator strategies in it. So it's get strategy. Strategy then gets run. Here you're getting method. Depending on the method, it's calling the script. So it's not really getting method, is it? And none of these are returning. So it's got a try catch in here. Oh, because it's doing a class name. And here catch actually is not handling the error, as in it's not dealing with the error. It's saying, well, if that errors, it must be this. That's quite a novel use of try catch for me. Right, generate link. So it's checking here, are you an instance of, and that's a custom method within this API. But basically, is the table that you're on, did it get extended from the document to profile type, which is entity type? So is it coming from policy or risk statement? Yeah. Is it generate or delete? An operation, get method, operation comes in here. Okay, so generate gets passed in. I was worried there that the business rule carries the operation. I don't know if Flow Designer has access to operation. Yeah, what to do? Try and convert some of these now. So I'm just thinking about all the different endpoints that are going to call generate links. So if we look there at the code, you've got document type, let's get method, is instance of SNGRC content. Content to doc. Right, so if you map a control objective to a policy, or if you potentially map the risk statement to the risk framework, then that should cascade. The generate links there is going to go and attach the entity type to the content records directly. Content to profile. This must be the new table, additional entities. Let's just take a look at this. I'm not going to convert these tonight. I think there's a bit too much of a bigger job. I want to map that out and understand it. But this is, so maybe episode 9, if we roll it up to 12 hours, round it up, and we'll do generate links on the next one. This table, I did it the wrong way. I did the config on there. Content to entities, yeah. So if you attach an additional entity, which again is a lovely feature, so additional entities here. If I open that in a new window, content to entities. And actually they haven't bothered extending that. They've just kept that generic. So I bet this configure the table That's pointing to content. That's pointing to, yeah, it's called content. And do you know what? This naming convention is beautiful. Right, it's a reference field, and it tells you the field name is the table it relates to. There's no question what that might be. The only time, or at least a scenario I can think of, for instance, the incident table you've got opened by assigned to caller, requested for, I think comes from catalog items. You've got 3 or 4 different references to the same table there with different contexts, so actually calling it the table name as a blanket statement doesn't work. On this M2M table structure it does work. So absolutely on an M2M, and that naming convention makes perfect sense. Content to entity, what else have we got in here? That's content to profile. Profile to profile type. So let's imagine then that we've got our entity types mapped to all of our documents and content. So we've got them mapped to risk frameworks, risk statements, mapped to policies, control objectives. We've got controls, we've got risks, we've got risk statements, control objectives all mapped to each other, which is then generating the links between the controls and the risks for the same entities. We've got a few additional entities out there. That shouldn't make any difference. Put a pin in that one. Then my entity type is running every hour. The scheduled job is running every hour to check my entity type. So if I said all critical business services, and I've got 3 critical business services, and then I add in a new critical business service, within an hour that new business service is going to be generated as an entity, and guess where that's going to live? That entity is going to get mapped to the entity type. When you create the record there, equally, what if you've got a manual grouping of entity types and you manually add it in? At that point you're generating links. So for everywhere that that entity type exists, that new entity needs to permeate and go and create new controls, new risks, and new risk to control mappings where appropriate. Instance of profile type. So it's not checking here. So basically saying if you're triggered from a profile type, then delete links. So where does that get called then? How can that get called against that record type? I did a code search, didn't I? Generate links. I must have changed screens. Generate links. I've got 10 minutes left on the show, people, so be good if from here you can see what it was. That's risk statement. Hold on a second, I'm jumping to conclusions. So just because get method so delete links. Let's just check that, because that's calling get method and that's probably where it's coming in from. Said if content comes from entity type. Can't be that one. No. No idea when that particular flow could have happened. If it's an instance of a profile type, I have to look into that a bit further. But hopefully this has been helpful for you to see this in detail if you haven't already explored this API, the item generator engine base. And the thing is, just exploring this and looking at the code, you might not, you need to see here, I think, a little bit of the architecture. You need to understand the data model, the extension model that's been applied to the GRC table structure. For instance, as I say, the M2M tables are not real M2Ms, and the reason there is because of the extension model. So the fact that entity to document gets extended into policy, etc. The existing data model as well around SNGRC item, content, document, the way those get extended into the relevant control, risk statements, policies, frameworks, etc. When you have those things, you want to start joining them up together. There's a lot of data interconnected, and it needs to keep track of itself. So you need to see the code and see how it's kind of handling it, but you need to also understand the environment quite well. And then I was hoping that maybe moving it to Flow Designer will enable us to visualize what's going on a bit more. So I think I'm definitely going to do one more episode. I was thinking tonight might be the last one, just because it feels like it was kind of stagnating and I wasn't sure if I was achieving anything here. But this is actually one of the main areas that I want to get into. It's one of the main kind of, it's like a black box, right? You can't really see what's going on in it. You know it's happening. The other one that might also be useful is the compliance score roll-up, because that is also running asynchronously. You can't necessarily see that happening and where it's happening. So maybe there's kind of two definite use cases that need to get tackled. But this is, in terms of GRC profiles, this is core. Entity scoping is one of the main conversations we have with customers when we're talking about their GRC implementation. If you can't understand the entity structure within an organization, you're not very easily going to be able to deliver value for GRC. So this is pretty core stuff, but it's also pretty heavy. So I think I want to give that the time it deserves. I'll give that another session. Today we just did a little bit on assessment utils, but to be honest, this is not I don't feel like I'm learning anything. I know I can convert UI actions. Maybe the UI page, we didn't answer that one. Processing scripts, that's a new one. Processing scripts called from UI page. Actions, subflows. Called from processing scripts within a UI page. Let me type properly there. So that's a question on this one. And in terms of learnings today, I learned that you can call an action directly. I thought you needed to have a subflow, but you can call the action directly. And when you do so, it tells you kind of what the first endpoint was. It doesn't tell you all the triggers along the way, but for instance, a UI action triggered a business rule, and the UI action is the kind of starting point that's reported in the execution. So some good learnings there. Not a total waste of my time. I hope it wasn't a waste of your time. Apologies for my slightly lackluster kind of attitude today. I am a bit tired. I apologise for that, but it's been good. Please join in on the community, in the conversation on the community. Let me just do this. Yeah, please join in on the conversation on the community. Join the GRC community. It's getting very lively in there. If you are a customer, reach out to your account manager and speak to them about roadmaps. Okay, there's a lot coming from ServiceNow. Speak to your account manager. If you're just learning GRC, go to the community, look at all the content that's available, ask questions. But before you ask questions on the community, just do a little search, because it might well have been answered. What else can I say? Yeah, shout to all the team in the community, in the ServiceNow community. Shout to all of my team, all of Rangoon, and send in some love to all of your families and my family as well. So I'm going to leave it there, and I will see you in part 9. But thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, like, comment, etc. Stay safe. Thank you.